everybody, and welcome to the summer tour in Savannah with Troubles versus Outsisterz. Pool A. This is their first game of the weekend, I believe. Outsisterz and Troubles coming in, hoping for their first win off the block. I'm Amelia Durbin, joined by my guest commentator today, Connor McHale. Say hi.
Hello, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. The game's going to get underway in just a few minutes, so we can take a couple of seconds to look at the EUF ranking points. So, Troubles currently sitting in 7th. 5 games to their name, 3 wins and 2 losses. Outsisterz, just trying to find them.
Doesn't look as though they're ranked just yet.
No, they're not on the board.
So it'll be interesting to see how that then impacts the rankings going into this game. Generally, teams not ranked yet will start with a lower EUCS rating, which means Troubles being in 7th at the moment will want to get a comfortable win here to not impact their rating too heavily.
Absolutely. We can take a look at the matchups if we can find it on the EUC website, which is a very helpful tool. But Outsisterz seemingly not on the ranking system, so they're probably going to be starting their campaign to get to Euros at this tournament, maybe hoping to take the win. They will need to get their 10 games, so potentially hoping to get in a few more. They'll get maybe 6 or 7 at this tournament, and then get a few more leading up to the deadline, which I believe is just in a couple of weekends' time. This game is going to get underway ever so shortly, so we'll meet you back here in a couple of minutes before it gets going. We hear the calls there that time is running, so this game is about to get underway. So just a reminder for those who are joining us, I'm Amelia Durbin, joined by Connor McHale, and we're here at the Summer Tour watching the first pool game of Women's A, Outsisterz versus Troubles. Connor, how do you think this game's going to go?
Interesting to see. We are coming up to the end of the EUCS qualification period, and lots to play for. Number of teams not yet sitting at the 10-game minimum needed to qualify for EUCF later in the year. Troubles, one of those, as you mentioned. And Outsisterz, seemingly this is their first outing in the EUCS series. So going to be interesting to see whether they are intending to push for that qualification with some extra games after this tournament has finished. But it may just be that they're entering this for some reps as well. However, with it being a summer tour event, all teams mandatory ranked, which means that all of these games, regardless of whether a team is actually aiming for Euros or not, will impact your team ranking. So Troubles are going to want to come out here strong and solidify that place in that top 16 going into EUCF.
Just looking at the rosters here, Troubles bringing quite a significantly large roster compared to Outsisterz. Outsisterz pushing maybe having about 14. Troubles bringing quite a significant roster. Numbers potentially might not be as accurate as we'd like them to be. We have got a few people down marked as zeros, so their numbers not been tracked. So we'll do our best for you to follow along and hopefully get you the scorers and the assisters on each point. Time has been running for quite a long time now. Both teams pretty slow to get to the line. Do you reckon that's some early morning nerves or just playing it cool?
I mean, if they're anything like me, they're just a little behind schedule. But we'll see whether that makes any impact towards the end of the game. Troubles out of Warsaw, Poland. As I'm sure many of our viewers will be aware, the recent women's Polish national champions, I believe. And Outsisterz out of Slovakia, an ultimate team from Bratislava.
Well, the tournament is being hosted in Slovakia, so it makes sense for Outsisterz to come along and see what they can do. So game is underway. We have got Troubles in the black shirts and Outsisterz in the white, so Troubles starting on defense now. Outsisterz looking like a host stack, but Troubles sagging off that handler, potentially a zone, but maybe match downfield. But you see Outsisterz utilizing the far sideline, swinging the disc around the back nice and quickly to get it moving.
Yeah, looks like Troubles coming out completely in match downfield.
Big Huck going up now. Well received. On the red zone line, we see a player streaking, but not receiving into that reset position. Holsters, open side. Not a lot of aggression to that open side front cone in the end zone there, but Outsisterz managed to get it around the back. Still looking open side isolation, but doesn't get it. Trouble's doing a great job of pushing the team in white back here. Huck goes up. And there is the first point on the board. A little bit of contact, but maybe a pick called.
Yeah, pick called slightly earlier in the passage of play. Didn't look like it was one that affected those last couple of passes, but long enough ago that we'll probably see this come back, I expect.
Okay. Always a bit of confusion with the pick score. I feel like no matter what, teams will have a discussion about it.
I think probably an example there of being able to utilize the 2 full seconds if necessary as to whether the pick actually made a difference in the play. You have 2 seconds to call the pick. Gives you 2 seconds to decide as to whether that would have impacted the play.
We see Lucia Bolvanska on the disc there, just 18 years old, but been playing for 6 years. Puts a big disc up. Doesn't receive it. There is the first turnover. Troubles looking to get their first break throw. A slow walk to get the disc. Looking like Outsisterz doing a zone, potentially, with maybe an assassin on that closest handler, but we'll see when the point gets going what they're doing. Big hammer over the top. Well caught under some pressure. Huck goes up, trailing into the middle of the pitch and received. We've got a defender deep. Resetting.
Yeah, Outsisterz doing a good job to get in front of the disc after that deep shot went up. Not worried about trailing behind.
It's a good zone from Outsisterz, just stopping a little bit of momentum downfield now those passages of Hucks have gone up. Bit of a miscom there, but well caught. Just being able to move up the pitch nice and slowly against this zone here. I think potentially looking to break to match now, but no, still in the zone space. Into the middle. Right on the end zone line.
Really nice movement here from Troubles. Lots of lateral passes. In and out the hands very quickly. Not in called on the end zone line.
Bit of a contest. And there's the goal. That is a Troubles break first point. Outsisterz not to feel defeated though. They got all the way down the field and just turned in that red zone space, which potentially could be a little bit of early morning rain. But I was impressed by both teams' offensive play there.
Yeah, I think after that deep shot, Outsisterz coming out in quite a passive, not very aggressive zone, which when the disc is on your opponent's end, your own end zone line or the other end of the field, can be a great way to slow the opponent down and make them take a lot of passes. When the disc is so close to the end zone you're defending there, can be much more difficult. Takes far fewer passes to get into the end zone.
Yeah. So, Outsisterz hoping to get their all-important first score on the board. Troubles have been a fairly dominant source in the Frisbee scene for quite a long time. I've been playing for 10 years, and my Bristol women coach, Kinga, she used to play for Troubles in her time a couple of years ago and really enjoyed it there. I remember watching Troubles in 2022 at Vienna Spring Break and was super impressed with how they performed. So excited to watch them play today. We see Outsisterz bricking the pull, so they'll be taking it to the centre of the field. They're now coming out of a vert stack. First passage goes. Continuation deep, not on, not received. Swings back into the middle. Pick being called, so a little bit of discussion. I think in vert stacks, picks are quite common, so not surprised to see that.
I think actually a foul call. I think a little step on the foot in the vert. I was about to say, Outsisterz doing a really good job of keeping that stack compressed, nice and tight. But yeah, it can lead to those picks and to the occasional little step on the foot. Trouble's doing a really good job of pushing back the Outsisterz handlers. And just as I say that, a nice breakthrough of play down the open side.
Really aggressive in using these down the line strikes. Disc is going up. And that is the first goal for Outsisterz. That is 1-1 here at the Summer Tour in Pool A, Game 1. Troubles did break first point, which means that they do now have the advantage. So they will be referred to as trading up. But we are 1-1. Both teams impressive this morning. What do you think? How are you feeling?
Yeah, really nice passage of offense. Once the disc started moving for the Outsisterz, Troubles seemingly struggling to slow that down, to stop that on those open side up lines. Not sure that Outsisterz necessarily needed to really break the mark much there at all. Got pushed back a little initially through some nice resets and some really nice aggressive shots down the sideline. We'll see whether in the coming points whether Outsisterz stick with that vert play and whether Troubles will do a better job of shutting down those open options. But very well executed from the Outsisterz.
That was Haluskova with the goal there, number 41 shot. So that we know now the game's been going on, we know who to see from this O-line and from this D-line. I'd be interested to see if Outsisterz are doing O and D lines with quite a small roster. But I expect we'll see some familiar players on those Trouble lines. But speaking of lines, we have now got the Troubles O-line out, or their O-line players, and they're looking confident. Outsisterz doing his own, but disc is being swung comfortably by the handlers. Not too much pressure being applied. Through the middle, just a little bit too far, but back up there. Huck option not going. Just being able to utilize all of this up the line space. And there is the goal. Potentially a miscommunication on who that was going to, but we see two potential different white hats getting the disc. I think the one at the back potentially was meant to be receiving that, but a good slash from Bucket Hat.
Never doubt a thrower's decision making. They knew what they were doing.
They knew. That's 2-1 now.
But yeah, really passive zone from the outside. Outsisterz not putting a massive amount of pressure on the handlers, which by the looks of things so far, not a very windy day and a very confident set of Polish handlers able to simply move the disc laterally through that zone, finding those pockets and putting in for a comfortable goal. No turnovers yet from the Poles.
No, and that was Sonia Kavinska with the goal there, the bucket hat. Big fan of a bucket hat on a stream. What are your thoughts on the bucket hat look?
Not for me personally, but it's because I'd be too bothered trying to keep it on my head as I run.
Well,
too distracting.
Kazinska clearly not bothered and looking cool. So we are now sitting at 2-1. Troubles again having the advantage. with Outsisterz coming out on offense. You think you've seen 2 pulls trailing out onto this closest sideline near us now. So potentially there is a little bit of wind that's pushing that disc down into that area. But we see that Outsisterz vert stack coming out. Initiation from the front every time, and that's 2 in a row. And you see that continuation from the back, but just not able to get there. In the middle of the stack, received. Looking for a reset, but tricky position. But there it goes. Oh, and just too far, too zippy. Troubles on offense now to get their next break. Bit static in the center field, high disc, but really well caught. Throwing to that middle, some really lovely flow, and a big huck goes up, trailing potentially over the defender's head, and it is, and that is the second Troubles break, which takes us to 3-1 in this first pool game. Natalia Pobek with the goal there. A super fantastic throw from the number 16 shirt of Zakakowska. You see the flick went up and she was able to angle it. So the defender didn't really ever have a play on that disc. It angled perfectly, trailing away from the defender's eye line into the receiving hands of Pobek. Quite a really hard skill to execute those perfectly kind of undefendable discs, but really, really well handled by Troubles there. Outsisterz had some great flow. I think they just potentially overshot a middle pass through the middle, which can be dangerous. A little bit too much zip, just bounced out the receiver's hands and then snaffled up by the Troubles defender. No timeout being called, so Outsisterz clearly believe that it's just a bit of a slow start and potentially wanting to keep rolling and get some more points on the board before they utilize those all-important timeouts.
I think that's probably a good decision. Only the 1 break against them in these past couple of points. But good to get that O-line straight back out again if that's what they're intending to do. That slightly smaller roster is possibly going to prove to be a little more flexible on line calling, as we see Outsisterz take a deep shot of their own.
Ooh! Not in, but what a grab. Oh, it is being called in. Fantastic. There. A nice quick passage offensive play, which when you are a few breaks down, you want to see more of. You want to get your breaks in. You want to get your offense line out quickly and scoring quickly.
Very well done. Yeah, we see a lot of angle on that lead pass into the end zone at the end there, making it really difficult for the defense to make a play. It also makes it a little more difficult for the receiver, but she does a good job of reeling that in.
Yeah, really, really well handled.
And yeah, as you say, coming out on offense after being broken, so important to be able to reply and put in a clean hold.
That was the number 27 shirt of Mikalkova there. Been playing for 7 years out of Bratislava. Her sporting hero, which I love to read, is always, it says, "My sister," because she is just a beast. Shout out your sister. It's a national experience for Natalia with the Slovakia U17s women's, U20 mixed and masters mixed. So now disc is in, Troubles on offense. Zone look from the Outsisterz, but Troubles making kind of easy work at the minute, squeaking one through the middle. Quite a passive zone from Outsisterz, kind of letting them swing the disc and maybe able to take some inches down, but just off the hands. There's a turnover. Outsisterz have got an opportunity to get a break back now.
Yeah, I actually like that shot. Once the disc had swung, moving it straight back to the middle to the free person when the Outsisterz front 3 hadn't quite moved across. And now we see a chance to break back.
Well handled there. IO shot and just great defensive pressure from the Troubles receiver. They're off now, playing some tick-a-tacka down the middle, utilising that small space, and a big huck's going up. Under pressure, and a fantastic score. What a way to get the disc back, and then to get that score on the board. So impressed.
What a huge grab. I thought that might be a little too far out in front as it was out the hand. And we'll see who came down with that in a second. What a way to stick with the play. Full extension into the end zone.
That was Monica Zauska with the goal there, the number 16 shirt. Shout out to you. We're impressed. Haven't got a playing bio for Monica, unfortunately, so can't give you any insight into her playing career, but a really, really impressive layout. And early in the morning as well. I think she's going to be on for a good tournament.
Fun fact about Monica.
Oh.
Makes huge layout herbs.
You can put that on your bio next time. Troubles probably asserting a little bit more dominance in this game than Outsisterz, but Outsisterz have got some fantastic plays of offense, just maybe a little bit of lack of decision making potentially in those kind of red zone areas, maybe throwing through tighter windows than they need to.
Yeah, and as we saw them with the chance to break there, managed to swing the disc off the sideline, but then looking for that tight inside flick, which the Troubles defender did a good job of reading. But again, doing a really good job of gaining early yards quickly.
Yeah. They're very capable of swinging the disc and getting the disc down to a player with, fantastic. And there goes that big hut. Oh, what a grab! Under some serious pressure, and behind her was quite a tall receiver. So really well handled.
Yeah, I think the defender had a good position there to box, but Outsisterz receiver able to get up early and bring that one down.
Yeah, it's Mikalkova with the disc there. Fantastic grab under some serious pressure. So Outsisterz, again, their offensive plays are really, really good. We've seen 2 very short points from them there, where they were able to kind of get the disc into the end zone, maybe 5, 6, 7 possessions. That's impressive.
Yeah, it seems to be that they're either going to score quickly or they're not going to score so far. And another one of those hooks with a lot of angle. This time, the defender level deep with a chance to make a play. But as we said, going up early to bring that one down, Mikalkova.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so Troubles out on offense now, and a similar zone look from Outsisterz. We can see those 2 defenders up front with this kind of third defender trying to stop the swing, but unsuccessful there.
Yeah, if you take a look across the field, at times as the disc moves forward, Outsisterz ending up with 4 or 5 people just behind the disc just to slow things down. But Trouble's doing a really good job of finding those pockets, those spaces in the middle of the field when things open up. This time deciding to go all the way around the outside, but just a little bit of a drop.
That's the second drop we've seen from Troubles in that zone. I think sometimes when the zone starts to feel easy, you do have a lapse of concentration, and that's sometimes when the disc falls out your hands. But Outsisterz, again, coming out of that vert stack with initiation from the front, that is their thing. We've seen that happen. You can tell that they want a continuation from the back deep, but not quite happening because the Troubles defenders are able to spoil it. They're in movement now. You see that initiation going from the front, and it goes up and it's received. That's a lovely pass.
Yeah, find themselves back in this vert stack. And you'll notice a little bit of a sag off from the Troubles defenders in that hand set just to try and slow things down. But Outsisterz doing a good job of hitting break sides.
Oh, great composure. Disc isn't over until it's on the floor. Right into the front of the end zone now. We see Outsisterz still trying to do that initiation from the front, vert stack, but it comes from the back. Over the top, we've seen that twice, but just the turnover is a little bit too high and behind the receiver.
A quick turn from Troubles themselves. It's a little rushed trying to get the disc moving there. And Outsisterz giving a bit of a gift to get that one back with a chance to break themselves.
There it is. Fantastic celebration. We jump along, wave the disc. We love to see some excited scores. That's a really, really well-earned break there from Outsisterz. I think they caught Troubles having a little bit too much momentum and were able to capitalize with a slightly more conservative play. Timeout is being called from Troubles. They're not necessarily pleased with that break. What are your thoughts on that timeout there?
An interesting one. First break of the game. That takes us to 4-all, and not sure exactly what the timeout rules are for these games, but if you get a couple per half, then 4-all would be the sort of time that you would maybe consider calling one. So just been broken, plus the time to rest some legs. I do think that Troubles with the slightly larger roster could maybe look to take advantage of that and get the get the Outsisterz straight back out there with their fewer legs. But yeah, I do wonder.
Okay.
Often see a couple, either at least 2 breaks or maybe a third before you'll call that. But maybe just a bit of time for Troubles to compose themselves. They had a couple of no decision making turns, just a little bit of rushed options, which this timeout could certainly help them.
And with this timeout call, we're just going to take a super quick break and have a sip of our tea, and we'll be right back with you at this Women Pool A Game 1. Welcome back into this 4-4 game, Troubles versus Outsisterz. We've got Troubles on offense after just being broken. We see Outsisterz coming with a zone, looking a little bit more energetic now after that great break. Troubles looking pretty confident, just a slip there. Maybe the ground's a bit wet in this morning air. Over to the far side. Troubles able to just swing the disc quite comfortably, but there was some great defensive pressure there. Doesn't want the swing.
Still happy to sit in this slightly more passive zone.
Troubles are doing a good job of recognizing when to play a bit more passive and then when to take the aggressive shot. You saw that they were swinging it quite comfortably, and then when they had momentum, they were able to push it up the field. You see them kind of really hoping to get this middle shot off, but then it goes to the open side, received, but no one there to pop it off to. Threatens to throw that flick huck back to the handler. Great swing across the side, a bit low. Trouble's pretty confident to stand static with a big hammer over the top. Well received. Sometimes in a zone, you've got to take those options, and there is the goal. That was a fantastic piece of zone offense from Troubles, I think.
Yeah, much more patient. And we talked about that timeout giving Troubles time to compose themselves a little, really work into their flow again, and able to do so. Not gaining a massive amount of yards to start the point. Outsisterz doing a good job of stifling that flow, of pushing the handlers back slightly. But once Troubles got into that movement and find that hammer to the break side of the field, really opening things up. First a quick 2-pass score after that.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Like I said, I think they were really good at being able to recognize when to play slow and when to play fast, which when you're playing against the zone is probably the best way to capitalize. Being able to recognize when you're swinging, and then when the space opens up, being aggressive into those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
That does take us to 5-4. Troubles do still have the advantage getting those 2 breaks nice and early to take it 1-3 a few points ago. Lots of white hats on the Troubles team. So if I do repeat some names and you are in fact wrong, I do apologize. But the white hat looks great. We see Outsisterz coming out of potentially a hoe stack there. Wasn't their familiar vert stack that we know, but just a match look from Troubles.
Yeah, possibly a pull play from the Outsisterz to get started.
They're looking for the isolation in the middle, but you can just see them getting a little bit clustered there. But down the line strike goes, and a big cut going up from Outsisterz. Now we know that that's what they like to do. And defensive pressure. Good swat and a nice bit of flight on the disc afterwards.
Yeah, really interesting little passage with the handler there. They saw that deep available, could see that they wanted it, but the mark doing a good job of taking that away. Try to fake the flick to try and move that mark out the way and get the backhand out, by which time receiver and defender a little too deep, defender a chance to catch up, and Troubles with another chance to break.
Yeah, we see the Outsisterz zone setting up. That's obviously what they're comfortable with. It's good to see that Troubles aren't playing a zone against them, because it's probably something that Troubles, that Outsisterz are familiar with, but nearly defensive pressure got it, but not quite. Troubles just seeing that level of patience where they're just playing with a little bit of tempo. They're clearly very comfortable playing against the zone. Swinging to the far sideline. Outsisterz, lots of pressure, able to recognise when those discs are coming, but there is a very free receiver deep. I'm not surprised to see that disc go, and what a catch. I think that was potentially the same person who got the D, so I'll wait for the stat to come up and then give your name a shout out. That was 27 Joanna, with the D and the bookends. A little buck ears up.
Yeah, with Rofska able to bring that one down under pressure from a chasing defender. Troubles seemingly not flustered whatsoever since those couple of turnovers earlier on. Still taking these tight slip options in the zone and then taking those aggressive deep options when they are on. Outsisterz, though, looking a bit close to getting a couple of blocks in that passage of play than we've seen previously.
Yeah, Troubles are comfortable against the zone, but it's not perfect. You can see that they have thrown a few kind of risky biscuits down the sidelines through the middle, where the Outsisterz have been able to apply some pressure, or they have dropped it. I would like to see the Outsisterz change up their defensive look, though. I think sometimes you can just throw out a match defense or a forced middle or an FM look just to change the way that Troubles have to play.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's, for all we know, Outsisterz match may not provide that same level of pressure. And if they feel as though they are getting close to these blocks, then maybe they're going to want to stick with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether they decide to change that up as the game moves on, as we see a little too much air underneath that inside flick and Troubles with a chance for another break.
Yeah, the zone work then against Outsisterz from Troubles there, and they've earned it because that is their third break of the game. So they'll be back up now.
Yeah, taking no time at all to get that disc moving after the turnover, attacking the break side of the field, moving the disc early. So hard to defend, especially in the end zone there on that final pass when the disc has only just moved and you don't really know where the thrower is then aiming. Take that space away.
Yeah, we see Kozlowska with the goal there, and I think they did a really, really good job of recognizing that they had to keep pushing deep. Sometimes in those quick turns, there's a tendency to flood towards the disc and try and get the disc moving. But she was able to just push it deep and recognize when that disc was going up to her for a well-received score.
And we questioned the Troubles timeout decision, but that now 3 on the bounce for Troubles after that timeout. Outsisterz got the break back of their own to bring it to 4-all, and now Troubles with a chance to break to take half.
This is going up. Fairly short, maybe just past the brick mark, so potentially there is more wind than normal. We don't have a windsock to see, and the trees in the background aren't giving us much, but just too far. I think Outsisterz maybe losing a little bit of confidence after 3 in the bounce from Troubles, but Troubles are off. High disc, but comfortably kept. So impressive being able to lead their receivers out into space. I think Troubles have got really, really good disc skills, as you see them being able to use them now. There's the deep strike, but not going. You see the spoil from Outsisterz, but a little pop down the sideline. And again, just really confident being able to push from the back.
I like that decision not to take that deep shot at 7-4. Chance to just throw that out there, but decide to retain possession comfortably with some more nice swings around the outside.
And there is the goal from Troubles. That is their 4th point on the bounce. A really, really impressive showing. I think if you were a team watching this game and you knew that you were going to be playing Troubles later on in the tournament, you would have to take into consideration that their disc skills are very, very good. Every player seemingly is comfortable breaking the mark, throwing a disc into space, both on the flick and the backhand side. And we've seen some great hucks from them. So Troubles showing a good amount of dominance. But that does take us to halftime. It's 4-8 in this first game in Trevana, Pool A, Troubles versus Outsisterz. Connor, what are your thoughts so far?
So I quite like the passive zone look from the Outsisters to try and slow Troubles down. I do agree, though, that it's probably worth them giving another style of D a chance to see what sort of pressure they're able to put in place, as Trouble's doing such a good job of soaking up that pressure in the zone, taking the free options where available. You'll notice that after they get that free swing that Outsisters are giving to them, they have a really open continuation option upfield quite often, and so they're gaining those yards really well. So either an adjustment of the zone from Outsisters or maybe some match defense will shake things up a bit. And we saw them earlier on running a really effective vert stack, just aggressively beating people to the open side, and then we seemingly haven't seen it again since. So it'll be interesting to see whether they make any of those adjustments. For Troubles, I think just keep doing what you're doing at this point. They are playing with confidence. They're taking good options. They are looking off good options as well, which is sign of patience and some wisdom there. So yeah, I don't think there's an awful lot to say to the Troubles players other than good. Let's just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I think probably it's worth us taking a look at the kind of offensive play in this second half that we see the Troubles do. We've spoken a lot about their defense being very impressive, but it's difficult to see what Troubles' kind of offensive look is because they keep coming up against a zone. So we know they're comfortable against a zone, but I would love to be able to see what they do when it's not a zone, whether they're a host stack team, a vert stack team, whether they're like a side stack. I think zone games can put teams into a bubble without them being able to kind of stretch their legs in what they're potentially even better at.
Amelia's saying this as both a commentator and a captain potentially going to EUCS.
Yeah, my team is Bristol Women, so I'm keeping an eye on both these teams. This is why commentary is also quite interesting, able to kind of analyze as I go what the teams do. We see Troubles walking to the line. I do believe they will be coming out on offense.
Yes, they broke to start the game. So 8-4 up with a chance to hold out of half is quite the position to be in. And yeah, I agree. It's interesting that Outsisterz playing zone defense after the pull and then also after the turn. Not often do you see offensive lines going straight into zone if they turn over. But Outsisterz doing it to pretty good effect. Seems to be pretty seamless.
Absolutely. We'll see if Outsisterz are changing it up in this second half as we see a great pull going up, but easily caught by Troubles. See a little bit of a push. That was almost like a little bit of a side stack there with the receiver running to this closest sideline and then slashing back into the middle. Hammer over the top. They're not afraid to use an overhead. Just on that far sideline, just really able to move it down the field. We do see a match look from Outsisterz here. So they have changed it up, but Trouble's looking pretty seamless. Lovely inside shot into that almost same channel that she was stood.
I like this match look from Outsisterz. Change things up a bit, and it comes to fruition. They generate first turn of the second half. Fairly early transition from the Outsisterz.
Yeah, I think, like we mentioned in the first half, being able to change up your defensive look is sometimes the best possible thing. Teams, when they get too comfortable against your defensive look, can struggle. As we see Outsisterz with an opportunity to break.
Back out in that vert stack. Having to lose some yards on that reset, but comfortable to do so. Notice that the force is pushing the cutters back in towards the stack, which makes it much more difficult and well received. Not the intended receiver, I don't think, but great peace of mind to stay aware and bring that one down. Trouble's now showing a bit of prowess on their match defense and making things really hard here for the Outsisterz. They're not going to give away this break easily. I think there might be a bit of discussion on that far sideline as to whether the receiver was in as she made that reception. And it looks as though they're going to call that one out.
Yeah, always tricky in these in and out calls, but quick discussion within those 45 minutes supposedly allocated to discuss a call. So Trouble's back on offense here.
Hopefully not 45 minutes.
What did I say? 45? So sorry. I'm only halfway through my tea. Big, deep hut going up, but too far. Love the option.
Nice amount of touch and sit on that hook, but still just a little too far out in front. And the receiver out there with not a defender in sight. So I think the thrower will be disappointed to have not executed that one.
This being brought in. Bit of initiation cut from Outsisterz, but not gone. Really intense defense from Troubles, and it does force a turnover, and I think that's well earned. As we see a vert stack in Troubles' end zone, just an isolation from the front, but too far. That's quite a few turnovers now from this point.
Yeah, Troubles are going to be a bit disappointed. More turns for them in this 1 point than I think the entirety of the game so far. Which, when it's a chance to hold out of half, is not what you want to see. Outsisterz back out in that vert stack. And a timeout called about on their own brick mark. I think probably a wise call after the number of turns that we've seen. And we're going to do the same. Quick timeout for us as well. So we'll see you back here very shortly for the remainder of this round one game of Summer Tour 2024.
Welcome back to Summer Tour 2024. We've got Outsisterz versus Troubles in this first round game. Score is currently 4-8. Outsisterz are on offense, but we've seen quite a few turnovers from both teams here. So this is Outsisterz' offensive point. They have called a timeout. And we're back in now. I'm joined by Connor McHale, who's just having a sip of his tea, and we were back with us shortly. Slow starts like this are really interesting because you get an opportunity to really see what the structure is. So we can see here that Outsisterz are going for a vert stack with 3 behind the disc. Looks like a bit of a flood play, but it doesn't go. And just a turnover, unfortunately, on that reset pass. That was quite a, maybe the word unorthodox offensive setup.
Yeah, and I don't really mind the 3 handlers being behind as we see Troubles, again, wasting no time on popping in the break goal. Yeah, I don't really mind the 3 handlers behind when you have the 3rd handler in a position that they are simply giving everyone more space. And we saw that the Troubles defender was happy to go over and mark them quite tight, which is probably what you want when you're keeping that handler out of the way. What it can do is allow that defender to go in and kind of mess around in the open space a little more and force you to take that wide free reset option. Instead, what we saw was maybe a little too cramped within that open space. We've seen Outsisterz coming out in that vert fairly often, but not really utilizing that open lane, maybe creeping into that space a little more, making their lives a little more difficult.
Yeah, we see Chelbika and Savchuk just being able to just push the disc really quickly. Quick starts like that are so hard to mark, and I think they capitalized on Outsister's mistake and just ran the ball into the end zone as quickly as they could, and it was really, really impressive. Troubles are showing a lot of dominance in this game. The score is 4-9, but Outsisterz not to feel defeated. They're doing a really, really good job. We've seen some fantastic offensive plays for them. When those deep hucks come off, they are fantastic. Running with a small roster, so probably similar people that we've seen before out on this offensive look. That all familiar vert stack with the deep strike not coming. Cut from the middle of the stack. Good defensive pressure from Troubles. They are pushing the Outsisterz team under with some people fronting, probably taking a matchup. And there goes the deep shot, but fantastic heads-up defense from Troubles. Not afraid to put their body in the way. And there goes that big huck up. That is a fantastic floaty disc, but two defenders there, and there's the block. Probably a little bit too much belly into that flick huck, able to kind of get the distance, but too floaty, which meant the Outsisterz defenders were able to get it.
Yeah, just pointing the nose of the disc a little too high, and that's the first kind of floaty skyball type hook that we've seen in this game so far. So far, our throwers been doing a great job of putting a good amount of angle on the disc to get that down to the receiver much quicker. That time, just a little too much air underneath that one.
Yeah, Outsisterz on offense now. Oh, just a turnover with the kind of one-handed grab not coming off. Probably didn't have the space to get two hands under it. We see Troubles coming out of a vert stack. Initiation does go from the front. That is a fantastic set of play. Great. Oh, and another layout. Is that the goal? That is the goal. That was fantastic.
Yeah, a couple of really impressive grabs from Troubles. Moving the disc to that far side of the field. I really like that when they move that disc to the middle of the field, they look to continue that immediately to the other side. Really well-timed cut. The disc maybe a little too far out in front as the receiver would have liked, but well reeled in. And after the hold straight out of half, that is another break for Troubles. That timeout that we mentioned earlier on really coming to fruition. We see 6 on the bounce now for the players from Poland.
Yeah, that was Lomnica with the layout score. That was really, really impressive. Again, we mentioned that in the previous point, Trouble were able to capitalize in the small spaces on a quick start. They did a little bit of tick-attacker kind of to the end zone. That was another example of Troubles doing a quick start, but expansively. There was some beautiful, beautiful over-the-shot kind of leading passes. Were they too far? Probably. But were they received? Absolutely. So you can't really fault Troubles. They trust their receivers and are pushing them hard, and it's paying dividends. As we see the disc going up from Troubles now, they're going to be feeling really, really confident. This is a dominant start to their tournament campaign. Outsisterz doing a host stack there. Troubles just match marking. We see the third handler being able to sag off and kind of put their handler into a neutral position, but there is the heads-up defense from Troubles. They knew that deep shot was coming and they were waiting for it.
Yeah, and again, just another quick rushed turnover from Troubles after the turn. We like that they're trying to move the disc quickly and get that tempo, but got to find that line between high tempo and rushing those options. And we see Outsisterz with another chance to hold, given a bit of a gift. Able to move the disc back to the middle of the field, but again, not really looking to continue that movement to the other side. And it leads to fortunate turf just in the middle of the field. And Troubles with another chance to break to take the score to 11-4 if they're able to put this one in.
Yeah, another host. Oh, that's a great grab. I was going to say another host stack look from Troubles here. They really do trust their receivers.
Yeah, and with some of the grabs that we've seen from the Poles so far this game, you can understand why. That one, though, just a little too far out in front, even for the bidding receiver. And Outsisterz, another chance to hold, and just a little too much on that around backhand. And we see Troubles, again, taking a quick option. This time, a little more touch underneath that one for the break. Takes the score to 11-4.
Yeah, that was really, really fantastic. Troubles, I think, probably feeling very proud and confident with how they've been playing. Outsisterz potentially a little bit deflated. So just worth noting, Outsisterz yet to get a score on the board since the score was 4-4. So the score is now 4-11. So Troubles are really earning their current position in this game. If I was the Outsisterz captains or coaches right now, I'd be encouraging them to keep their heads up. It's really easy in a game like this to kind of let your head get down. However, we have all been in the position where we've been down in a game and we've been able to bring it back closer. In Frisbee, for those who are watching that don't know, we always refer to it as a game of runs. You might get broken a few times, you might get breaks a few times, but the game is not over until that final whistle goes or that final point is scored. So Outsisterz, I'm really impressed with how they're playing. They're able to show us a little bit of different defensive looks. We've seen match looks from them, we've seen zone looks from them, but again, Troubles are working through a slightly bigger roster, and that potentially is paying in their favour in this game. We see Outsisterz coming out on offense again to try and get their 5th point on the board. Just a vert stack again, but just a little bit of confusion as to where the disc is going. See the downfield receiver's not too sure and too far again. Unfortunately, just pops out the hands of that receiver. Troubles a little bit slower to their start here. Maybe their coach or captain has said, "Hey, let's just slow it down a little bit." That's a fantastic up the line cut from the handler there, but doesn't go to them. But I see you. Pick being called. I think if we see those hand signals correctly.
Yeah, that upline little jab into the reset space to then attack up line. Interesting to see whether the handler had engaged that dump and someone just came out in the stack because they were free, or whether they'd gone a bit early. But regardless, get that same sort of pass up the line. But we see a little too much air underneath that one again, and Outsisterz a chance to regain that hold.
What I would say is working really well for Outsisterz is really doing a big no around mark. Troubles potentially confident to break the mark when it's high and lofty, when they're able to get round. But when that force is really intense, they're not looking confident in getting low and pushing the disc to the middle side. So probably going to be seeing a little bit more of that because they're probably recognizing that's working. But there we see a turnover in that same space. That down the line space is often 50-50. If you're free and clear, it's a guaranteed kind of pass. But there we see it a little bit too narrow and a turnover comes.
Yeah, and we see the majority of the Outsisterz offense on that side of the field as well, as I said, kind of creeping into that open lane, making things much harder. And again, Trouble's doing such a good job of moving the disc to the other side of the field to spread the play, but a little too much zip on that backhand. And we're getting a bit on in this point, a little bit later in the game as well. So those big explosive receiving plays that we saw earlier on are going to be a little harder to come by this late in the game.
I'd like to see Outsisterz do a force middle on Troubles. I think they clearly have a way of playing, which is kind of being able to use that break side. I think pushing them into that middle channel would work really well against them. You see Outsisterz with another opportunity. Troubles are close on those defensive blocks, and I think that is a strip as we see the disc accidentally taken out of the hands of the Outsisterz player there.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point. Very, very, very few calls in this game so far. Very few discussions, which has been really good. Kept the flow of the game moving nicely. Just a little too much air underneath that around flick. Gives the Troubles defender time to get underneath that one. Again, moving the disc quickly.
Yeah, I think the forced middle against Trouble has worked really, really well here because you can see that they're really confident in kind of when the disc is in flow, like pushing it into spaces. If you did an FM and always put the disc back to where it just came from, I think potentially they would be able to stagnate their play a little bit more. As we see the Troubles almost doing a 1-6 now. So they've got a lot in their arsenal. We see the cut from the front and then a deep strike, and it is too far. I don't mind the 1-6. It worked well, but just a little bit misexecution on that throw.
Yeah, and I think the difference between a traditional 1-6 and maybe what we're seeing there is that the Troubles handlers just very happy to aggressively attack up the line and upfield from that handler space when there are two handlers at the back, and as you said, filling then from the front or back of the stack. That option, don't mind that. Looking like a very free receiver, but just not able to quite read the touchier disc. And we're going to see Outsisterz taking a timeout on that end zone line and seeing a couple of people taken to the floor to try and catch their breath. And we'll do the same. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes for the remainder of this round one game.
Defense ready! 26 minut do meczu! Start the play!
It looked good from there. I know we don't get the screens.
Welcome back to this first round gets Troubles versus Outsiders. We've seen Outsiders take a timeout working through quite a small roster, so I don't hate that. High disc over the middle. We see a zone look from Troubles. Troubles have got a really good arsenal of things that they can do. We've seen a variety of defensive and offensive looks from them, so super impressed. They're probably now trying out things that they want to do for the rest of this tournament. The winner of this game will get the all-important wild card, which will give you guaranteed qualification to Euros, but I do believe you still have to have your 10 games, which Troubles currently do not. As we see Outsiders being able to push the disc to just near half, looking a little bit more confident, slightly more passive zone from Troubles, opening up some space. There goes it through the middle, but well snaffled up by the Troubles defender. Good defense as we see them being able to move the disc nice and quickly. Troubles again showing us that difference in tempo. Deep shot, and there is the goal. After a pretty long point, we see Troubles get that break.
Yeah, Trouble's not wanting that point to go on any longer than it already had. Playing with tempo after the turn. Really nice touchy lead pass to the break side in the end zone for the break goal.
Yeah, that was a 8-minute point, 8-minute 35 to be exact. Obviously, the timeout was in there. Timeouts meant to be often around 30 to 45 seconds or a minute, but often taking quite a lot more time because people walk to the line and then they talk about it. So maybe probably 6.5 minutes in total. I'd say we'd take 2 minutes off for the timeout. But a good soggy point, and I can imagine Outsisterz probably feeling a little bit deflated at this point.
Can't say I've heard a point be described as soggy before, but I think that's probably about right, honestly.
Did I say soggy? I think I said soggy, unfortunately. Did I say soggy? We'll have to watch it back.
We'll listen back. We'll listen back. So yeah, taking the score to 12-4. Yeah, you made an interesting point about how the Outsisterz are going to now utilize the rest of this game as best as they can. Not a huge roster. Do they decide to now maybe slow things down a little bit, experiment with some different options, just try and make the very most of that they can at this point? I think it's fair to say it's unlikely to see a huge running comeback from the squad, and they obviously have a number of games left for the rest of the tournament. So maybe 1-2 to save their legs and do with it what they can.
Yeah, absolutely. They are showing some dominance here, being able to push the disc nice and quickly upfield. Again, another zone look from Troubles, potentially trying to save some legs at this later stages in the games. But a big block goes out. Some heads-up defense and an assertive block as we see the deep strike go up. But the disc doesn't go, so Troubles happily to play a little bit more passive and take their time.
Yeah, like the aggressive huck fake. As we see backhand around, just going to ground, not enough air underneath that one.
Outsisterz back on offense now. Some big fakes coming up. Open side throw. Troubles just leaving a player unguarded. I think they are still in the zone look, or maybe a bit of confusion as to who's marking who, but Outsisterz being able to move it nicely.
Yeah, Outsisterz not really taking advantage of that free person. As you said, someone just being left completely and utterly unmarked as Troubles transitioned into that zone, and Outsisterz not really taking the opportunity to gain those yards that they maybe could have done and to increase that tempo. And yet again, we see Troubles moving into that zone after the turnover in a passage of play that looked like they were maybe going to come match.
I think what they're doing is sagging off the handlers. So there is always kind of a third person in the space sagging back to kind of stop flow, and it is working really, really well. You can see that There is always someone free on Outsisterz, but they're always in an in like a place that Troubles maybe can't that they can't hit because Troubles are guarding it.
Well, I think the difference between the two zones that we see is that when an Outsisterz receiver is moving into the Hannah space, they are being picked up straight away. But Outsisterz doing a good job of swinging the disc to the far side, as we've seen Troubles do so well so far this game. But the lead pass just a little too far out in front.
Yeah, again, this is turning into quite a long point with lots of legs running, but we see Troubles off to the races, being able to capitalize on all these free players. A high disc goes up, and what a fantastic defense from the Outsisterz player.
Yeah, that's a great block. Able to avoid contact, get up early, and follow up on the play as well, and get the catch D as well.
Catch your Ds, as they say.
Indeed.
Straight back into the zone for Troubles, into that far sideline.
And this is where we're going to see Troubles D really clamp down when they get it onto those sidelines.
Oh!
Great grab towards this near sideline as we see the disc move to this far side of the field.
Fantastic now, but just too
a little
far.
too much out in front on the swing.
Yeah, you see the Troubles defender kind of thought that disc was too far and potentially slowed down, but a disc is not over until it's over. High disc going up, close to the sideline, but there is the break again for Troubles, which takes it to 4-13, 13-4 in this opening game.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we maybe saw the Outsisterz player who made that layout grab lose her glasses on the receiving there, threw them off the field, then turned over on the around swing, clearly not with as good eyesight as you usually have, and then have to get her glasses straight back from the sideline. I think that's maybe what just happened.
I mean, if it was the glasses, as a fellow glasses wearer myself, and unfortunately this year wasn't allowed to wear contact lenses, playing in glasses is hard. It's a bit scary. Normally when a disc is flying at your face and you don't have glasses, you don't have to worry about much. But when you wear glasses, there's a little bit of fear that it's going to hit your glasses and break them. And glasses are expensive.
But respect for just throwing the glasses off the field and playing on rather than calling any kind of technical timeout.
Is it Superman that takes his glasses off and then turns into...
And becomes Superman, indeed.
It's 13-4 in this opening pool game. This is the women's pool A, Troubles versus Outsisterz. There's 2 points to go until point cap, which would make it Troubles' win.
And elsewhere in the tournament, we see East Block 11-7 up on Box Vienna currently, and 3SB 10-6 up on the ladies of Fabulous.
Yeah, I apologize for my... Oh, we're in. Outsiders are on offense. Using a little bit of momentum.
We're really seeing the difference between the two zones here. So similar kind of structural setup, but the way that it's being approached by the Troubles handler marks is very different. You see, as someone comes into that space that they're in, they are immediately moving into match and making it really difficult to get those really free swings. So Outsisterz is doing a good job of playing that slightly more match style offense against this zone. Some really nice tempo.
It's really unfortunate.
Love that flick on the move from the number 25. Correct, moreover.
Little slip for the Troubles player, but back on her feet. Oh, great D from Outsisterz. There's a little bit of fire in their bellies now.
Yeah, not going down without a fight. I mentioned about them maybe trying some stuff out and saving their legs for these next games coming up in the tournament, but still running hard, not wanting to give away any easy goals.
Ooh.
Well reeled in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I thought that was down, but apparently not. Outsisterz swinging the disc really nice, and there goes up that big huck, which we've seen all from them, and there he is. There it is. There's the goal. That is 5-13, 13-5. Outsisterz' first point for quite a while.
Yeah, not had the most success on their offense so far for these last few points, but we see again as the disc swings to the other side of the field, really well timed cuts to that break side. When they get that disc moving laterally, really opening up the space. when we see them kind of cramping and drifting into that open side, making their lives much more difficult for themselves. So really well executed. At this point, Trouble's probably a little more relaxed.
Yeah.
As we come towards potentially the end of the game.
Yeah, I was saying women's pool A, but I do believe that there is only one pool. So in this tournament, there are only 6 teams in the women's division. So it's East Block, 3SB, Fab, Troubles, Outsisterz, and Box Vienna. So women's pool A is the only pool, so they'll all be playing against each other and then breaking out into bracket play. So there's lots of games to be played here. So the first game loss isn't necessarily your tournament over. It is just a loss in the pools. As we see Troubles out on offense now, hoping to get their 14th point, pushing towards that ever important 15th cap. And as we know, with the algorithm, the almighty algorithm, beating a team by a lot can either be a blowout if it goes against what the algorithm expected, but I think this will be getting Troubles some good points.
Potentially, yeah. It's actually can make quite a big difference from 15-6 to 15-7. That being the cutoff point for what they would call the blowout. So Trouble's going to want to put this one in comfortably to bring it to 14-5. As we say that, a little too much roll on that roll curve forehand. Ends up with the disc on the floor, and Outsisterz chance to put their second goal in back-to-back for the first time since 4-all.
I'm curious as to what the weather is like. So I've gone on to the Met Office and we're going to have a look because I'm interested if there is wind. And according to the Met Office, the wind is very, very low. So I think any turnovers we are seeing are potentially just a misexecution, which sometimes when it isn't windy is actually easier because you're not having to concentrate on what you're doing as much. And that lapse in concentration can cause issues.
As we see a deep shot up from the Outsisterz, but well read, well defended from Troubles.
Absolutely.
And looks like they're deciding to take this turn offense a little slower.
Yeah, and the weather in Travana today apparently getting up to highs of 31. So it probably doesn't look like it on the screen, but I think it's pretty hot out there. Fantastic box from the Troubles receiver. And another layout, but not able to get it. We've seen some fantastic layouts from this Troubles side, but unfortunately that one just a little bit too far.
Yeah, another option with no defender in sight, completely free receiver, and I expect you'll be disappointed to have not completed that one. It's a bit too far out in front, as we mentioned earlier. As the game gets a bit later on, those options become much harder to go and explode and receive. As I say that, a huge defensive bid on that far sideline, but the Outsisterz receiver able to keep her composure and reel that one in before losing the composure and throwing that hammer turnover onto that end zone line.
It happens. We see a bit of a slower start, but an immediate... Oh, and what a layouts. That was brilliant. Love it. More. I was just about to say, the best thing about the layout, there's a lot of pressure for people to learn to lay out. And I think the one thing that laying out does do is it gives you a massive rush of adrenaline. Once you've done it, you feel like you are God status. Even if you don't get it, if you get a layout D attempt, you've applied loads of pressure. If you get a layout grab attempt, you look great. It can make you feel so confident, and you can really see that this Trouble side are feeling confident. They've got 3 amazing layout grabs in that end zone. They are pushing their receivers to work really hard, but sometimes when you know that your receiver can lay out, you take the options that push them a little bit further.
And it just gives you so much more margin for error on these throws. So many options that we've seen Troubles receive.
Yeah, that was Payam Kauska with the goal. A fantastic full extension layout, which is what we love.
When you're a team looking to challenge the top 8, the top 4, the top 2 in Euros, those 2 or 3 turnovers a game that are saved by being able to go to ground can prove vital.
Yeah, Payam Kauska's got a massive history in her national experience and the Poland U20 women at World Juniors 2016 and on the Poland mixed team in Heidelberg in 2019. So an experienced player. able to kind of flex our skills.
Still only 25, so playing on that World Juniors team 8 years ago, just at the age of 17. I've been playing for a decade now, so I expect no stranger on going to ground and saving those discs when necessary.
Absolutely. So we see Outsisterz on offense now. If Troubles do get the break score, they will win this game 15-5. So Outsisterz is going to be really hoping that they can maintain possession here and get that goal on. We see them take. Oh, and there is the turnover.
Troubles with the chance to break for the win. Taking some nice easy options around the back, opening up that inside lane. And that is the final goal of the game. Popek with the final goal, 15-5. Pretty dominant performance from the ladies from Warsaw.
Yeah, we've got some stats which we can walk you through here. So Outsisterz in that game spent 45 minutes on offense, just compared to Troubles 21 minutes. So that is a stark difference in how this game went, and the scoreline does reflect that. On average, Outsisterz spending about 9 minutes on the disc for a goal, whereas Troubles just 1 minute 26. So able to really showcase Troubles how dominant they are as a side.
Yeah, especially after those turnovers, 10 breaks in that game. And yeah, we saw a couple of points that were maybe slightly more turn heavy than either of these teams would have liked, but we also saw a lot of very clean holds, very clean breaks rather, after the turn. Troubles utilizing that quick tempo, utilizing that lateral movement to move the disc to the other side of the field. Outsisterz showing some good stuff here, though, going into the rest of the tournament. I expect they're going to be no easy opposition for the other teams in this Pool A.
Absolutely, and we can just look now at the stats board, which people love doing. You can see kind of the dominant forces on this Troubles side. The number, there's, excuse me, I can't speak. Zakowska coming in with 3 assists and 1 goal. So same for Sorzak there with 3 assists, 1 goal. So those are 2 names to look out for in the rest of the tournament. But that does wrap up the first game of Women's Pool A at Summer Tour 2024. And that wraps up mine and Connor's time on the microphone. Thank you so much for joining us today. There are so many more games happening across Europe today that I recommend you look out on the streaming platform. You might hear from us again later today. We've got 2 more games to go. Thank you for joining us, and have a lovely day.